enjoying the experience that we're going to be sharing here. And somehow, somewhere, if you see me switch to other languages, do not say what has happened to our man. No, it will be for the interest of the discussions that will be flowing here. And basically, we are going to be talking about languages as a tool for unity. That will be our main topic here. But of course, we shall be seeing what is coming up in this regard and how best can we make use of our languages as a source of unity, not disunity. We have had some instances in other worlds where such people who speak this are not supposed to cross here, things like that. But yet, in other words, a language is supposed to be a uniting factor in this regard. So, my name is Luke Majumba. I want to welcome you to this morning's episode, Issues at Hand. And yeah, we are going to be, I'm privileged to be hosting the group CEO of Afrika Mashariki. First, Mr. Kisembo Tendo here with me. You're most welcome.
Thank you, brother, for having me.
Habari za asubuhi.
Salama kabisa, unaendeleaje?
What do we...
How are you doing?
Oh, wow, it's a pleasure to have you this morning here.
Thank you, brother. Thank
yes.
you.
So first and foremost, can we first understand what Afrika Mashariki is?
Thank you. Afrika Mashariki First is a regional youth organization affiliated to the East African Community Secretariat in Arusha, formed on the 8th of October 2014.
Okay.
So last year we made 10 years promoting regional integration using art and sports.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Isn't it challenging regional integration?
It is a tall order per se, but against our survival. You see, when you talk about regional integration, we are ideally talking about the unity of our partner states. We are talking about forging an informed future for a region called East Africa. So this has been the work of the heads of state. And we are like, no, wait a minute. Heads of state have done their part. What's our role as young people in the region as far as region integration is concerned? So we came up with an idea that let's also team up as young people and support the efforts of our heads of state, because a father and a mother cannot run the affairs of the family without the support from children and other family members. So we are here to offer a hand to the leadership of all the partner states as far as pushing the agenda of unity is concerned.
Okay. And now, when we talk about unity, we find ourselves with so many ethnic groups in this region. And an aspect like Swahili language can be a unifying factor.
Indeed.
How is it coming in? Because I see in Uganda, for us, Kiswahili is taught, I think, around senior 1, senior 2, and then it is dropped there. But at least for Kenya and Tanzania, for them, they are good to go in that regard because they even use it. What are the steps for us being put forward for us to have at least Swahili everywhere?
I think for starters, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, retired General Museveni, calls it a historical mistake. If you're a good student of history, you remember that during the 1978-79, there was a war, a fight between Tanzania and Uganda.
Yes.
And it's called in Kiswahili Vita vya Kagera. Here, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere was helping the former president of Uganda, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, to come back and take power. So in that exchange, people died, people were brutalized, and people were using Kiswahili as a language. So Uganda, more so central region, developed an attitude of negating Kiswahili. And that is something we feel we need to heal from.
Okay.
That's number one. We cannot continue holding on to what happened all those years back. And we are like, no, we can't move on. We've seen situations where a country like Rwanda had issues in 1994, but they've since healed from that and they have moved on. So equally, from our end, we can agree that we need to push a language that unites us. We need to push a language that is an enabler of trade. And we cannot hold on to that historical mistake.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Well, what steps have been taken to make sure that at least we have Swahili revamped.
Thank you very much.
Utilized by all East African.
For starters, Kiswahili has gained an official status in Uganda. It's an official language. Then number 2, Kiswahili as a language, it has an official status in the East African community in Arusha. So we've seen when heads of state converge in Arusha, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan addresses summit using Kiswahili.
Wow.
And any other president has to listen in because you can either speak English, Kiswahili or French. These are official languages of the community.
Yes.
Then when you take it a notch higher at the AU, okay, in Addis Ababa, Kiswahili was adopted as a working language.
Wow.
And then finally at the international level, United Nations took on Kiswahili, okay, and it gazetted 7th of July each year as International Kiswahili Day. What does that mean? That the language we are talking about is a serious language that we need to embrace. And it is our own language.
Okay.
Kiswahili is purely African. We can't continue to pretend or deceive ourselves that we are independent. When even to this date I'm here in the studio, instead of speaking Kiswahili, we are busy speaking English. 60 plus years after we claim to have gotten independence. Countries like Russia, countries like China, countries like North Korea, they would say we are independent because they speak their own language. And language is a tool that is unifying and we need to embrace. Ugandans, more so here in Uganda, where the bigger problem is, we find ourselves in a country called Uganda, with a kingdom called Buganda, found in central region, where we have the capital, the national airport and everything. Buganda is a strong kingdom, right from history up to date.
Yes.
Number 2, they have their own language, which is Luganda. Now, the challenge we've seen over time is that fear of the unknown. If Uganda took on Kiswahili, what would happen to Uganda? Now, they haven't come out boldly to address this issue. If Uganda took on Kiswahili, I'm here to tell the leadership of Buganda Kingdom that we can have the two languages adopted and live in harmony. A case in point, let's go to Rwanda. Rwanda was a francophone country. Yes. They were speaking French. But when they joined the East African community, they have since transitioned smoothly to an Anglophone country. They now speak English, but they didn't drop French. So the two languages are spoken and amicably things are moving. Now, the brutality, it's a historical fact. The brutality that was meted upon citizens during that war in 1978-79 that brought back Dr. Obote into power, people are using words like kachini, fungua mlango, leta pesa, piga huyo fanya. So those words are still fresh in people's memories. They were harassed, they were robbed, they were raped. These are realities. And people are using Kiswahili. Now people like Kiswahili ni lugha ya wezi. It's the language of thieves, which isn't the case. How can it be a language of thieves and it has gained the unofficial status in Uganda? Then the state has a puzzle to fill. Then number 2, my point here that I'm trying to deliver home is that Buganda Kingdom, because honestly speaking, that's where the challenge is. Northern Uganda, they have no issues with Kiswahili. Eastern Uganda, because of the cross-border trade, no issues with Kiswahili. People in the West, because of the cross-border trade, no issues. The conundrum is just here within Central region. But I can ably tell you that we can, in a harmonious way, push for Kiswahili adoption alongside Uganda, and both languages will be used. Baganda on a daily, Baganda people on a daily cross to Kenya to go and do trade. Business. When you go to Nairobi and you reach there and you're speaking English, that alone has an effect on the cost of what you've gone to purchase. When I get to Nairobi and I go to a shop, I want to buy a mobile phone. Habari asubuhi. Naomba kununua simu, unauzaje? I want to buy a phone. How much is it? This guy will look at me as a fellow Kenyan. I will negotiate the price using a similar language.
Okay.
The moment I say, hi, good morning, how much is that phone?
You're
that already
foreigner.
has... go to
The price
Nakasero market.
increases. Okay.
Go to Nakasero market.
Yeah, that's true.
When you go to Nakasero and you say, mama wasuzotia, enkuta yetoke yameka. Somebody will say, I am itwale ebiri. You are Ugandan. You go there and take your English. That already has an impact on the cost price of goods. That's why we say, by embracing Kiswahili, we are promoting a language that is a trade enabler. It's a unifying language. We have a mindset issue. We are glorifying people who speak English at the expense of Kiswahili, which is a historical mistake. And we can't let things flow forever. That's why we are saying, let us take deliberate steps towards promoting the adoption of Kiswahili, not only in Uganda, but in East Africa and Africa at large. Okay. And this is achievable. But this is not going to be affecting other indigenous languages.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's look at the basic of having Kiswahili integrated into our system. Don't you think introducing it at senior 1 is a mistake? Because I believe what you groom someone in baby or P1 is should be something they grow up into. Even if they are not going to take it up later, at least they learned it at that age, and trust me, they cannot forget it. Don't you think the education system also has something to do in this regard?
Yes, you are absolutely right. I think it's a policy issue. Ministry of Education and Sports needs to come up with this as a policy. It should be a directive from government that Kiswahili should be taught mandatory from P1 probably up to senior 4. I want to believe through that process,
that's enough time.
Somebody now knows Kiswahili for survival. Now, those who want to take it on as a profession can now take it to another level. But senior P1, standard 1 to senior 4, somebody knows, not even elementary, by that time you know Kiswahili. And then when we use it at home, you know, practice makes perfect. When we keep practicing Kiswahili, if I start with you on set here, I say habari, and you say mzuri, aha, twende kazini, tufanye njoo tukule chakula, tufanye hivi. Slowly, you get to associate with the language. So we can do away with the mindset of negating the language that is our own.
Okay.
Yes. Wow. So I believe the Ministry of Education and Sports, and I'm happy that they're on board. And this is something that government has given priority. Many Kiswahili books have been written and sent to schools, but there are no Kiswahili teachers in those primary schools. Yeah. Now,
even in high school, you find a school of 1,000 students has one Swahili teacher.
Now, that's a challenge that government needs to come out and address. We are lagging behind. East African community, as we speak, has 8 partner states. Yeah. And each of these partner states, by the treaty of the ESC, they have to embrace Kiswahili. Kenya, Tanzania, DRC Congo, Burundi, they are pretty ahead of us, pretty much ahead of us in terms of speaking Kiswahili. Yet, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania are the founding members of the community. Wow. So it's a big challenge. It's an elephant in the room that we need to address together. Okay. And in the Pan-African movement, we say we have the struggle is one, but the fronts are different. So when we come up with an initiative, another organization comes up with another initiative, ultimately the gospel of Kiswahili should be preached all over Uganda, all over East Africa, and the benefits associated with this language should be shared to the wananchi. Okay. Yes, please.
Now, I want to understand also, do you think the nation or the government has done enough aside of statements being released? Because there's a time when I had a statement from government that Swahili is now mandatory. I think that was around 2021, sort of. That Swahili is now mandatory, and everyone will be needed to speak Swahili. Do you think the government has done enough to make sure that Swahili is put out there?
I'll address that from a strategic angle, where His Excellency the President believes in regional integration, believes in Kiswahili as a unifying language. Now, after the President comes the First Lady, who is the Minister in charge of Education and Sports. And it's her ministry that has the mandate to promote the use of Kiswahili in schools. Then the Minister of Gender, the Minister of East African Community, Internal Affairs, Foreign Affairs. Now, all Minister of National Information and National Guidance, all these need to team up and have strategies of popularizing a language that is negated. You see the Buganda effect, I'll keep going back to that, cannot be wished away. Buganda is a strong kingdom. As you can see, the effect or the power of His Majesty the King. Okay?
Yes.
If the King of Buganda, okay, His Royal Highness Kabaka Mwenda Mutebi II, chose to pass out a message, and Katikiro, which Charles Peter Mayenga, to say that, look, we are Baganda, we speak Luganda, but we can ably, or we call upon Baganda to embrace Kiswahili as a language that unifies us, as a trade enabler, as an African language. A lot can be achieved. And once Buganda, as a kingdom, endorses this, then the transition will be smooth.
Yes.
Because as I said earlier, other regions already understand the benefits associated with the Kiswahili. It's that historical mistake of the brutalizing of people in Central especially that has made them say Kiswahili totubulira. But it's a mistake. You cannot, you are a journalist here.
Yes.
Tomorrow, if an opportunity availed itself in Nairobi or in South Sudan, and they want a talk show host in Kiswahili, do you stand a chance?
Not at all.
If you are in school, those watching us here on Family TV, if you are a student aspiring to be a lawyer, and maybe the job market in Uganda, the legal fraternity, may not absorb you, and you want to cross over to Tanzania, because we are allowed to work within the partner states, will you be in a position to go and practice law in Tanzania in Kiswahili? That's the question. If you are a sports journalist and you want to do sports commentary and analysis, in Uganda you will speak Luganda and your English. But you are a good analyst and you want to get a job in Nairobi. Sports commentary in Nairobi is done in English and Kiswahili. Where do you stand a chance? You get my point? You are a writer. You want to write books. And the Kiswahili books don't have market only in Uganda. You will say, now I'm a Ugandan writer. I've studied Kiswahili. I want to write. Will I be able to sell my books in Uganda and outside of Uganda? You are a translator. Because Kiswahili is not for East Africa. It's a continental language. A few years ago, 2-3 years ago, South Africa took in almost 800 teachers from Kenya and Tanzania
to teach Swahili.
They are in South Africa teaching Kiswahili in schools.
Wow.
Last year. What does that mean? South Africa is embracing Kiswahili. We are here in the neighborhood saying, hiyo ni lugha ya wezi. That's a language of thieves. That's a mistake, viewers. Number 2, last year, in the month of November, Tanzania and Cuba organized an international Kiswahili conference in Havana. I was privileged to have represented Uganda as a guest speaker in that conference in Cuba. And His Excellency the President and State House funded my travel to Cuba.
Wow.
And one of the things I told Mzee before I left Uganda was that if I succeed in persuading delegates in Cuba, then Uganda should be the next host of the International Kiswahili Conference. And when I reached Havana, our ambassador in Cuba, Her Excellency Elizabeth Musazi, is a daughter of our hero, Ignatius Kangave Musazi. So you can also see strategically that Cuba, as a revolutionary country, with the late Fidel Castro, Che Guevara and others, those guys supported Africa. But to your information, Mwalimu Nyerere, right from 1960s, was sending Kiswahili teachers to Cuba.
Wow.
1960s. This is a fact. Now, they could go learn Swahili, then they would fly back to Africa, to South Africa, to Angola to come and fight, and the Cuban doctors. How do you treat me as a soldier who speaks Kiswahili? And I can't explain to you the pain I'm feeling. You see how strategic and visionary Mwalimu Nyerere, the Fidel Castro, the Nkurumas were. 1960s, Kiswahili teachers from Tanzania flying to Cuba to teach Kiswahili to soldiers. Then they would fly to Africa to come and join us in the liberation struggle. These are historical facts. I'm privileged to be getting this information firsthand from Mama Maria Nyerere and the family of Fidel Castro. Now, what I mean here is that we can't do away with Kiswahili. The best we can do is to have a candid and genuine dialogue. How do we push Kiswahili alongside Luganda? Luganda is not an official language here, with due respect.
Yeah, it's not.
We have English and Kiswahili, the only two. Otherwise, I would come here, I'm a Munyoro. Munyoro was a powerful kingdom, I'm Kisembo. I would come here and be pushing for Lunyoro. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, what Kenya has as its primary problem? Ni ukabila. Tribalism. You say, I'm a Kikuyu, I'm a Luo, I'm a Kalenjin. Now, that causes disunity.
Yeah, disunity.
All we are saying here is that for years, Kiswahili has been negated in Uganda and in the central region. Can we work harmoniously to promote this language, which is our own? When I find a Muganda speaking English and is proud and negating Kiswahili, that's a historical mistake, which we must do away with. So I can only feel proud as a Ugandan because I speak English, I speak Luganda, I'm a Munyoro, but I embrace Luganda. You get my point?
Oh, yeah.
In 1994, there was a genocide in Rwanda,
Yeah.
and they butchered themselves. It's a mistake. But they have since healed from that mistake. And they have come together to build their nation.
Yeah.
Now Rwanda is a model country on the continent. If people were brutalized in 1979, why do we hold on to that? Yes, I can associate with the pains that people went through. The current government came into power through fighting. They went to the bush 5 years. People died. It's a fact. Okay? People are not happy with what was happening then. But haven't we since healed?
Yeah.
And we enjoying the peace? And we enjoying the development we are having in the country?
Yes, we are.
Now, if we said President Museveni and your people, when you are fighting, people died, and then we negate government. Mistake.
Yeah.
Another thing that I find challenging as we strive to promote Kiswahili are our security forces. Yesterday I met one of the senior senior assistant commissioners of police at police headquarters, and was saying, Doctor, you are doing a good job. But the problem we still have, even we officers, when we go to arrest the people, we speak Kiswahili. Now you continue making people fear the language.
Reminding them of what.
Yes, because why don't they arrest people in English? Why don't you say you are under arrest? Okay, like you've seen in other places. One would say whatever you say after this will be used against you in courts of law, blah blah blah, in English. Why do you go to arrest somebody and say, okay, kachini, toa viatu? You are again building onto the other narrative.
Yeah, that's right.
And we must address that. If police officers viewing this program, army officers, other security agencies, in the fight, as we support His Excellency the President to promote the adoption of Kiswahili, let us also be mindful. Right, you are doing your work. You've gone to conduct an arrest. Granted. But why don't you speak English? Why don't you speak Luganda? Why do you reach that point of arresting people and you bring out Kiswahili? You are making our work very, very difficult. We can't avoid Kiswahili. We must embrace it.
Wow.
And that's why we are saying, let families adopt this language. When I was growing up, they used to tell us, years are coming when anybody who doesn't know how to use a computer will not find a job. Do you remember that? You are still a young man. I'm now 43 years old. When I was growing up, they used to tell us, time is coming. Without a computer, knowledge, survival will be a problem.
Yeah.
When you go to Europe nowadays, some airports have no people to attend to you. You must use your machines to check it, to weigh your luggage, scan your passport. No immigration officer like Entebbe to stamp for you in the passport. Now, and you won't call anybody to help you. So you must adapt to the new realities of life. And the new reality of life in our region and in Uganda is Kiswahili. I strongly say you can't claim to be independent when you are still speaking French as an official language in your country, English as an official language in your country. Mistake, but it is doable to embrace Kiswahili.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, this is very, very important and pertinent. So it is an encouragement for you out there to embrace what you have on ground, other than continuing with what we are doing. Yes, it is important to say you are independent with actual things in place. Say independent, but say it in Swahili that you're independent. Do not just mention it in this regard. Well, so ladies and gentlemen, when we return from the short break, we're going to be talking about the upcoming International Kiswahili Conference. So please stay on and see what benefits this is going to be having for us.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
Yes, you're welcome. You are watching Issues at Hand, and today we are looking at languages as a unifying factor. But basically, today we are talking about Swahili. You know, we can have so many communities in a given place, but at least have that language that unites you all. And actually, your language, not what we are doing right now. Because right now we are being united by English. But well, here we want to embrace Kiswahili, so that at least a member state of East Africa, not only East Africa, if South Africa has been able to recruit teachers to go and teach, what are we waiting for here in Uganda? Why do we still have a single teacher in a secondary school of over 1,000 learners? So these are things that need to be addressed in our nation so that we can have this language adopted in our system. But also having it start from the beginning of a learner's life. When you come in P1, that's where you should be taking it up from, and not when you're already having so many things in your head, and then they bring in Swahili at senior 1, which is precisely, yes, I understand that that time you can still grasp things, but someone who has been educated at that early age gets these things better. So, Doctor, we were still talking about how we can have Kiswahili integrated into our system, into our nation so much, and I believe the International Kiswahili Conference is one of the innovations.
Yes.
Why this conference?
Thank you very much. Like I stated earlier, last year, in the month of November,
yes,
the government of Tanzania and the government of Cuba organized an international Kiswahili conference, which happened in Havana. And I represented Uganda in that conference. And as I said earlier, when I went to Cuba, before my departure, I had a meeting with His Excellency the President, and I briefed him that in the event that we succeed in persuading delegates, Uganda should host the next international Kiswahili conference. Now, Mzee welcomed the idea, funded my trip, and I traveled to Cuba. And as I said, when I was in Cuba, I met the ambassador of Cuba, an interesting diplomat, Her Excellency Elizabeth Musazi, the daughter of our own Ignatius Kangave Musazi. So we went together, we attended this conference, and we succeeded in persuading delegates to host this conference here in Uganda. Now, we are calling this conference an international Kiswahili Gospel Crusade. I want to paint a picture for the viewer out there that as you've seen gospel crusades happen, this international Kiswahili conference is more of a gospel crusade, but this time a crusade for Kiswahili.
Wow.
Whereas gospel preachers will invite people who preach the word of God, we have invited international speakers to come and preach the gospel of Kiswahili. The headlining the delegation, of course, is Professor Pierre Olumumba from Kenya, renowned speaker. Now, those of you who are used to his English, amazingly, will be shocked when he switches to Kiswahili.
He's better than
an amazing speaker.
Wow.
Now, we have Professor Mutembe and other Professor Ponela, University of Dar es Salaam. You know, Mzee studied in Dar es Salaam University. And Mwalimu Nyerere was also here in Uganda as a vice chancellor and as a student. So what that means is that we are going back to the original roots of the community. But the most important thing why the conference is to shine a spotlight on the advantages associated with the Kiswahili. They are low-hanging fruits that we need to harvest. Okay? The harvest is plenty, but now the laborers are few, if I may quote a biblical scripture. What we need to do now, as young people, is to come out and embrace this initiative. The conference also has other opportunities, primarily promoting Kiswahili, pushing for a mindset change, especially in central Uganda, as I earlier stated. But away from that, we also intend to promote tourism. You know, when a country hosts a conference, away from the gist of the conference, there are other advantages the state enjoys. People flying in are coming on Uganda Airlines. That's revenue. People coming in are booking hotels. That's revenue to Uganda. People coming in will go to national parks. Okay? All this is revenue. And we also have to market our country. Countries invest a lot in PR projects to paint their image, to market their image globally. So hosting conferences is one of the strategies countries use to promote the international image. And such a conference, at such a critical moment of integration, it's something that the state and other stakeholders should ably come out to support and embrace. When we talk about Kiswahili, as I said earlier, we cannot claim absolute independence when we don't have a language called Kiswahili.
Kiswahili.
That's why we are pushing for this conference.
Okay. Well, and what are the expectations? What should we expect, majorly the attendees? And why should Ugandans be part?
Well, attendees, we have extended invitations to all secondary school students and their teachers in Uganda. We have reached out to a few primary schools in Uganda, then university students, traders through their umbrella body Kasita and other trade associations. We are also reaching out to government officials. It's interesting to the viewers, those who may not know, that our cabinet, the cabinet of Uganda, our ministers, every Monday before they go for cabinet session, they begin with the Kiswahili classes. What does that mean? Cabinet is a combination of different tribes, but they have seen for them to forge unity of purpose, Kiswahili has to be embraced. Those watching the program, ba minister ba Uganda, buli lwa balaza, nga tebanatandika lukiiko lwa ba minister, basooka kusoma Luswahili. It's a matter of policy. Okay? Now, what do we pick from that? Number two, look at our parliament. We have very good legislators in this country, but some may not be able to articulate issues affecting their constituencies in English.
In English, yeah. That's
Simply, Parliament government may not be in a position to articulate issues. But the point is, which language are they using?
Yeah.
Okay?
That's right.
Now, if we chose to embrace a language, the most effective parliament on the continent is the Tanzanian parliament. Because they speak one language, that's English. Sorry, Kiswahili. When you go to South Africa, the parliament of South Africa speaks pretty much like 5 languages.
There's a mix-up.
Yes, and whoever stands can choose to speak Shona, to speak English, to speak Zulu, you know. But again, that is also confusion. Why don't we embrace Kiswahili as a language that will unify us? Kiswahili has no owner. Nobody will claim that language. Not even Tanzania, where it started, and Zanzibar. Kiswahili is for Africa. And you can feel proud speaking English at the expense of your own language. So that's what we intend to do. Now, the speakers we have invited from different countries are coming to talk to us on different topics. The impact of Kiswahili on tourism. On Thursday last week, I was taking a flight from Entebbe to Bujumbura. I actually made a tweet, and people came out to comment with different views. Before departure from Entebbe, we were on our own Uganda Airlines Bombardier. The crew was announcing, passenger X, identify yourself, passenger X, identify yourself. Nothing was happening because the young lady was speaking English. It was until after making 3 attempts that I had to talk to the lady who was making the announcement in the business class. I said, excuse me, we are going to Burundi. These people don't understand English.
That's right.
Kwa nini usimwambie kwa Kiswahili? And the young lady knew a bit of Swahili, and the announcement was made. The man identified himself. And I give kudos to Uganda Airlines here, because the in-flight, the inbuilt PA system announces safety precautions in English, then after in Kiswahili.
Wow. Because
when our parents, most of them have not gone to school. And you are sending them probably to Nairobi, to Dar es Salaam for a weekend, for a tour. Now when they sit and the only language on the flight is English, that's also a mistake. So we are inviting people to talk about the importance of Kiswahili in the aviation sector, in the medical sector. A lady from Kaperabiong, who may not know English but knows a bit Kiswahili and is sick, has come to the national referral. What discussion is there between the doctor and this lady? You may need an interpreter.
Yeah.
Whereas what they are discussing would be private. You get the point. That's why Kiswahili is an imperative for development, for unity, and the earlier we get alive to this fact, the better.
Okay.
So viewers should warm up for speakers, international speakers, 21 of them from different countries, and each has a topic to present as far as the importance of Kiswahili is concerned.
Wow.
We have seen journalists. I don't know, you're a young man, whether by that time you are following a gentleman called Mike Arereng. You have Siraje Kanyango. These are senior journalists who studied Swahili here in Uganda, and they rose through the ranks of journalism to BBC, others Voice of America, others to Deutsche Welle, speaking Swahili. Let me ask you and the viewers, why would Voice of America designate a program for Kiswahili news and Kiswahili commentary? Why would BBC, these are our colonial masters, why wouldn't they stick to English? Why is there BBC Swahili? Why would Russians choose to promote Swahili and you have RT Swahili? Why would Germans promote Kiswahili? The earlier we realize that Kiswahili is the glue that will bind East Africa and Africa together, the better. We can't integrate without a common language. Bure kabisa, tunapoteza muda. We are wasting time. Unity can only be forged when we have a common language. Abaganda bali bumu. Kwa balina olulimi lutya? As simple as that. Temuli rocket science, there is nothing much. The earlier we realize that we can only integrate when we have a common currency. But when in a sentence zimu, tumala budde. You pick 10,000 Uganda shillings. When you reach Busia, Kenyans don't want to use your money. You change. You lose value. When you enter Nairobi, you want to eat, okay, you pay Kenya shillings. In the evening, you want to cross to Namanga to go to Arusha, you change to Tanzania. Confusion. When Mwalimu Nyerere was here, when Mzee Kenyatta was here, and Dr. Bote, they forged and had a common currency. Boda kucha East African Airlines. Those years, we had a common airline, a common railway system. Okay? What I mean here is that Uganda in Uganda Airlines. Then we have Kenya Airways, Air Tanzania, Rwanda Air. They are all struggling. Nobody is making a profit. Okay? They are making losses. Right now, it's coming to 10 o'clock. Uganda Airlines will have a flight to Nairobi with 30 people. Shortly, Kenya Airways will land to take another 11. Shortly, Rwanda Air will come. They're all going to Nairobi. Why don't we merge these airlines? And because if I have 5 taxis, you have 7, he has 4. We can imagine and say on the Mbarara route, we take 5. They all go full. On the Masaka route, also on the eastern route, we put 7. They all go full. The confusion here is that everyone wants to be big, yet they are small. And these are realities of life. We must be honest to each other. President Museveni has been preaching the gospel of unity for years. But other stakeholders seem not to be embracing the idea. Every year, when we have international games, Uganda sends team of Uganda. Mose gives Cheptegei Okiprotich a flag of Uganda. President Ruto in Kenya gives the team, Eliud Kipchoge and group, a flag of Kenya to go and compete. Other countries take even one. A country like Burundi, you will end up having 2 athletes now against the international competition. Why can't we merge East Africa and field a single team? USA has over 50 states. They merged and formed the United States of America. When they field, they bring a strong team. What we can do in East Africa to forge unity, these are pretty much simple things. The problem is politics. We can do what we call regional qualifiers. Uganda leteba marathoners abasinga obulungi. Kenya the same, Tanzania. We first compete.
Who's the best?
And we choose the best to represent not Uganda, East Africa. But when I'm boxing, we also get our athletes. We have regional qualifiers and we choose the cream. When now we go to Olympics, we take one flag of East Africa. But President Masuboloke kunganya bonna and the flag of our team, and we shall make wonders.
Wow.
Let's look at this bid. I don't know the sportsman. The Pamoja bid. Tulimkweteka kucheza AFCON.
Yes.
2027. Uganda nebisawo bimala okutegeka emizannyo egyo.
No.
Does Kenya have?
No.
Or Tanzania? But when they came together, ne batekayo a joint bid ensi ssatu. They won. Ekyo kyetuyigiriza kinga abantu okwegatta obumuge emanyi. Uganda tulina nambole only one. Mukulu Lawrence Mulindo ekisawe kye kyalina ochegede chizo ubanza butakiyisa.
Standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you see the pressure we are having of building this stadium real quick. Hoima to beat up time. Kenya the same. Now if East Africa and our leaders are to walk the talk, we must begin by embracing Kiswahili. Number 2, we forge a common currency. Then number 3, we forge a political federation.
Wow.
Yes.
Now let's talk about the nature of the event. Who is supposed to come? How much is the event? When exactly? At what time? And what is expected?
Thank you very much. Those viewing Family TV, the International Kiswahili Conference is happening this week, coming week. We are converging on Monday, the 14th. So the conference runs from 14th to the 16th. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at Kololo National Ceremonial Grounds. Kuchisawe Kololo, wetugenda okubeera. Registration is free. Registration is free. Kati abantu tebagala Luswahili. Tuli mubabulira njiri baluyige. Ato basabe sente. That would be another mistake.
The logic.
It won't make sense. But again, I want to encourage viewers. As I've labored to explain here, we can't avoid Kiswahili. We are expecting thousands of students and delegates from Uganda, East Africa, and across Africa. Even beyond Africa, we have speakers from US and Canada. African Americans coming to talk to us, giving testimonies of how Kiswahili has made them survive where they are. So register on our website, www.afrikamasharikikwetu.org. www.afrikamashariki. Africa has K, not C.
Not C, okay.
www.afrikamasharikikwetu.org. Registration is free. Those coming, breakfast and lunch will be provided.
Wow, all the 3 days.
Yes, throughout the 3 days. But the most important thing again, on Sunday, tomorrow but 1, we are having a cocktail party. Kekandibadaka Sikika conference at Kololo to mark Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere's birthday. You know, Mwalimu Nyerere on record used Kiswahili to unite Tanzania and Zanzibar. Those viewing Family TV, when you hear United Republic of Tanzania, some may not know why. These are 2 countries in one. There is what we call Tanzania mainland. In Kiswahili we say Tanzania bara. Then we have the islands of Zanzibar. There are also 2 islands, Unguja and Pemba. When you bring the 2 islands, they form a country called Zanzibar. But Zanzibar has no autonomy. They are united with Tanzania mainland. And Mwalimu knew that if I promote Chaga as a language, if I promote Kimasai, if I promote Kihaya, or Kikari, you know, any language there, it would be a problem. So he chose to use Kiswahili. So as we usher in the conference, we want to celebrate a life of an African icon called Julius Kambarage Nyerere. So all African diplomats, only African, this is an African affair, all African diplomats have confirmed their presence at Kololo to cut a cake and toast to the life of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who not only forged East African unity, joined Kwame Nkrumah and others to form the Organization of the African Unity. These were visionary leaders. Lwaki Nyerere teyagala asigale yekka? Nyerere chose to delay the independence of Tanzania. Alinde Uganda ne Kenya bafuna independence to celebrating ile wamu tukole community. Yani bada abira munene uwe. Okwegatta gemanyi. So we welcome you to join us for this International Kiswahili Conference. We expect His Excellency the President of Uganda, General Museveni, to be the guest of honor. We have different speakers from the University of Dar es Salaam, Makerere, Kyambogo, Nairobi, South Africa, Ghana. They are coming to talk to us about why we must embrace Kiswahili. Karibuni sana Kololo, tutawakaribisha na chakula kiko bure kabisa, hata walipisha pesa. Sijui kama umeshanielewa mpaka hapo. So, nashukuru sana. Naomba I want to take this opportunity to thank management of Family TV for according us this opportunity to come and share a word with the viewers. Indeed, as I've said, Kiswahili is an economic imperative. It's a unifying language. it's a language that does not discriminate. So the earlier we embrace this language, the better. May God bless you.
Well, that is very, very important. And thank you so much for enlightening us in this regard. So as we wind up, how do I tell my viewer out there, have a blessed weekend?
Uwe na weekend njema.
Uwe.
Weekendi, weekend is English.
Okay.
Kwa Kiswahili is weekendi.
Weekendi.
Ngabo ole tugamba egali na kalia. Ero gantula ku kalia. Waliwo ebigambo ebiganda waze ne mu Luswahili wali ebigambo ekona lisigala kona. Okay. Kata kona, sale kona. So uwe na weekendi njema au nakutakia weekendi njema. Mkwagaliza weekendi ennungi.
Nakutakia
weekendi njema.
Wow. Oh, well, I think you have also learned something, just like I have done. You know, you should always make sure that you use the opportunity whenever you have it. So I want to appreciate you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much for enlightening us in this regard. Please, you're called upon. This is a free event. Make sure from Monday to Wednesday you're there, and make sure you use this event to learn and also get to know the purpose of having Kiswahili as your main language, or you yourself taking it up, because unless you're planning to stay around, but if you're planning to move around for trade or for whatsoever you're doing, you have to have a number of languages that you know as a factor. But also the other issue of people not hiking their prices because you're speaking a particular language. So I want to appreciate you so much. Asante sana, Doctor, for taking us through this interesting highlight, also giving us the light as to why Kiswahili is very, very important. So I want to wish you a lovely day ahead. Please make sure you always make use of what we do speak here. Have a lovely day ahead.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV.